look who's back.
Howdy doodly do.
Admit it, you missed Talkie Toaster. Stop lying, I know you did.
You will not offer any grilled bread products to any member of the crew. Now, if you do, you will be on the receiving end of a very large polo mallet.
Can I ask just one question?
Wait for it.
Would anyone like any toast?
So Crichton reveals why he has wrought the horrors of Talkie Toaster onto the Red Dwarf crew. He's testing out a technique called intelligence compression. Basically, in shortening its lifespan, he can bring up its intelligence. He's hoping it'll also work on Holly.
We could restore her IQ of 6,000. She could be brilliant again.
Holly has computer senility, for which Crichton has an example.
His name was Gilbert, but he preferred it if people called him Ramesses Niblick III. Kerplunk, kerplunk, whoops, where's my thribble? A sad case.
They also have a rare conversation about what their long-term options are. Lister is hoping that Holly could invent a hyperdrive that will get them home quicker, but Crichton points out that the human race may very well no longer exist.
She could invent a time machine and we could all pick whatever period in history he wants to live in.
Rimmer wants to serve under Napoleon because of course he does.
The chance to march across Europe with the greatest general of all time and kill Belgians.
Crichton wants to go back to last Tuesday.
I did all the laundry, and then we watched TV. Wow, we won't see the like of those sort of days again.
It must be nice being that easy to please.
Nearly there, Hall. Just a couple of minutes to load the circuits and, I don't know, maybe a minute to finalize the connection.
Meanwhile, Holly counts by banging her head against the monitor. So a bit later, Holly is having her intelligence compressed. But rather than having her intelligence restored, she ends up with double her original IQ.
Strike a light, I'm a genius again.
Fun fact, not the first time Holly has said that.
Strike a light. It's Gordon.
I know everything. Metaphysics, philosophy, the purpose of being, everything.
Holly wants to test her newfound IQ by having Talkie Toaster quiz her.
Any question at all? Truly anything, and you will answer.
Yes.
Which results in some delicious banter.
Given that God is infinite, would you like a toasted tea cake?
That's another bready question.
It's not just bready, it's quite currenty, too.
Ask me a question that is wholly unbready and not even slightly currenty.
Eventually, Talkie Toaster asks a legitimate question.
So what is your life expectancy? 345 years.
What's the decimal point?
You have only 3.41 years left to live?
That's not years, that's minutes. 3.41 minutes.
Well, here's my next question. What the smeg are you going to do?
So Holly only has a little over 3 minutes of runtime left, so she switches herself off. Unfortunately, Holly switching herself off results in the power to the ship being shut off as well. And the ship is so tech-reliant that there isn't even a way to get the doors open.
We laser our way through. An excellent suggestion, sir, with just two minor drawbacks. One, we don't have a power source for the lasers, and two, we don't have any lasers.
Yeah, Cat having a plan that has only two drawbacks ends up being one of my favorite running gags. So apparently the doors aren't very strong, so Lister suggests using something as a battering ram.
Or we need something, say, I don't know, 6 foot long, fairly sturdy with a flat top.
The lighting on Cat there is perfect.
You okay, man?
I'm fine, thank you, Susan.
So they've made it back to Holly, and Rimmer wants to know why she turned herself off.
Go away.
But Holly doesn't want to stay on long enough to tell him.
You're a total smeghead, aren't you, Rimmer? I'm about to expire in just under 2 minutes. Any further questions? Take your time. No rush.
My God, that's terrible. Haven't we better switch you off?
Oh, I don't know. Let me see now.
Have I mentioned that I love Girl Type Holly? So now they're back to where they were before.
So how come Grand Canyon Nostrils are still here?
Out of all of Cat's nicknames for Rimmer, I think that's my favorite. So it turns out that Rimmer is running on backup. Switching him off would take a lot of the drain off the battery, but it would basically kill Rimmer.
Space Corps Directive 195 clearly states that in an emergency power situation, a hologrammatic crew member must lay down his life in order that the living crew members might survive.
Oh, here we go with the Space Corps directives. That's going to become a running joke too once Rimmer gets a hold of it.
Yes, but Rimmer Directive 271 states just as clearly, no chance you metal bastard.
In any case, that's not going to happen.
Let's just say we can eliminate the switch-off option.
We can't get any food out of the dispensing machines. We're gonna have to scavenge what we can find on the cargo decks.
Plus, we're gonna have to spend another 20 minutes sawing the lid off the can because all the openers are electric.
Wow, talk about a poorly made ship. You'd think there would be alternative ways to do things without power in case the power ever went out.
My turn on the electric blanket. Pedal.
You're wearing a fur coat, asshole. This is why Lister's head exploded all over you in the last episode. Karma. Meanwhile, there's a weird time dilation thing going on with Crichton and Rimmer, which is funnier than it should be.
My heavens! What on earth was that?
I think it came from outside the ship.
What about from over here?
Also, Rimmer slowed down sounds surprisingly like Andre the Giant.
And now?
Normal.
Anyway, they go to consult Holly about what's going on. They end up all meeting together, and this gem of a conversation takes place.
So what is it?
I've never seen one before. No one has, but I'm guessing it's a white hole.
A white hole?
The gist of what Crichton is saying is that they've encountered a white hole. Where a black hole sucks time and matter, a white hole returns it. And now they're stuck in a time loop.
So what is it?
I've never seen one before. No one has, but I'm guessing it's a white hole.
A white hole?
Well, sometimes it's a loop, and other times it's just time jumping around randomly.
Okay, so it's decided then. We consult Holly.
I missed the discussion.
We all did.
Anyway, they agree to consult Holly.
White,
Yes?
hole,
Right.
spewing,
Yes?
time.
Quickly.
Advice, please.
Right.
It's a computer slug.
So what is it?
I've never seen one before. No one has.
I love how the scene ends in the middle of that conversation, so you don't know how many times they actually went through that loop. Anyway, at some point, they look at the disc Holly gave them, and she has generated a 3D diagram showing them what they need to do. Basically, Starbug will fire a projectile that will hit the nearest sun, which will cause an explosion that will knock a planet into the white hole, plugging it up. But Lister doesn't think it'll work.
Why, what do you think she's doing? Playing pool with planets.
Is that possible?
But it's not going to work. Not the idea, the shot. There's not enough side.
He swears up and down that, despite Holly's knowledge, he can still play pool better than her.
She's topped it. That's what she's done. She's topped it. It's a felt ripper. That planet is off the table into somebody's pint of beer.
Rimmer disagrees, so they put it to a vote.
What's your vote, Lister?
Well, I vote for Dave Cinzano Bianco Lister.
1-0 to Listy Poo.
Listy poo.
I agree with you, buddy. But I'm voting for Doodoo Breath.
And since voting is almost always a popularity contest, Rimmer loses.
Couldn't put my cross next to the Brian Nylon party.
Well, I agree it's insane and suicidal, sir, but I'm afraid I have to side with the human.
Brutal.
So now Lister gets to play pool with planets.
If you miss, we're gonna get a planet in the face.
I'm not going to miss.
Mish?
If he doesn't end up drinking so much he can't focus.
Remember, you relax. I know what I'm doing. I am not pissed.
Cue a neat little sequence where he gets in the zone by imagining he's playing real pool in a pub.
He's missed.
We're finished.
She rides!
But he gets it anyway, which may or may not have been intentional depending on which crew member you ask.
Are you trying to say that was a trick shot? Intended. Pool god, king of the cues, prince of the planet Potters.
So it turns out that plugging up the white hole means that they're now in a redundant timeline and this entire episode basically didn't happen.
Reviving the toaster? Making Holly a genius? None of this is going to have happened. But we will exist back on Red Dwarf, before all this began. With, of course, no memory of these events.
So now Crichton can tell off Rimmer again with no repercussions.
You are the most obnoxious, trumped-up, farty little snakehead it has ever been my misfortune to encounter!
And so ends White Hole.
A white hole?
This is a really fun episode, and another one of my favorites. While Queeg was boy-type Holly's episode, White Hole is girl-type Holly's episode, and I'm really glad she got one. And like Queeg, this one is kind of nearing the end of her run on the show. She still has another season to go, but she ends up with less screen time because Crichton ends up taking over her role as the character who explains the technical stuff. I consider this a Holly episode because, while the story is partly about her, she gets more screen time than usual and gets some great dialogue. But really everyone gets their moment in this episode. Talkie Toaster returns. By the way, this time he's voiced by David Ross, the original Crichton. And he is great as always. Rimmer refusing to sacrifice himself for the good of the crew, and taking a story from history about someone making a sacrifice and turning it around. Crichton telling off Rimmer in the end. Cat being Cat. And of course Lister playing pool with planets. And then there's that discussion of what a white hole is that is one hell of an earworm if you watch it all the way through, with how it gets repeated 4 to 5 times. It's pretty quotable among Red Dwarf fans. Next up is Dimension Jump. See you then.
Ship that's a comatose, looking fresh. Mango
Before you go, there is one question, an important one. The others will have to know.
What? What?
Would you like a cheese and ham breville?